We've told an entire generation, my generation, that if we were going to solve environmental problems, we just need to do solar and wind only, we need to buy electric vehicles, and the rest will be history. But as most of us know, that's not realistic, nor is it feasible, nor is it something that is economically possible. I'm Benji Backer, president and founder of the American Conservation Coalition, which is the largest conservative environmental organization in the country. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and my passion for my entire life has been being outdoors. I've always loved hiking and skiing and just simply being outside. But as a young kid, I also was really active in politics, and I was really active in conservative politics. I became active when I was 12 years old on a bunch of campaigns in Wisconsin, my home state, and became even more active in high school at a national level. But I was really becoming frustrated at the reality that Republicans and conservatives were no longer at the table on environmental issues, and the Democratic Party was the one leading the charge all the time. And as we all know, competition usually yields better results, and there was no competition of ideas when it came to environmental issues. So as a young conservative who cared about the environment, loved being outdoors, but also loved conservative politics, I decided to start ACC to create and fill that void with an organization that somebody right of center, specifically young right of center people, could join and advocate for their own ideas and their own values on behalf of the environment. For a long time, conservatives and Republicans led the environmental dialogue, from Teddy Roosevelt creating the national park system to Ronald Reagan signing and putting into law a lot of public lands measures, and of course Richard Nixon creating the EPA and signing the Clean Water and Clean Air Acts. Those times in history were not partisan when it comes to environmental issues. They were truly just about the environment. It was about fighting the environmental challenges that our country faced, that our globe faced, and finding a path to solving those issues. Now it's about right versus left, alarmist mentality of a doomsday scenario and saying that our whole future has been taken from us, versus denial or skepticism. And that doesn't serve anyone well, but specifically that doesn't serve the planet well. The partisan rhetoric on the topic is just not helpful at all, because when you have a one-size-fits-all answer on the left and zero answer from the right, and we're not talking about solutions, we're talking about really simple talking points that work really well on social media or in a news hit, that isn't actually solving the problem. And the reality is, the solutions are nuanced. Environmental issues are nuanced. They're complicated, and they're different in Georgia as they are in Utah. And if you put that all into one basket, or one tweet, or one news hit, you aren't doing the issue the justice that it deserves. So when it comes to the answers, what does that look like? Well, it means that it's going to be different for different localities across the country and across the world. Just like I said, Georgia will have a different answer than Utah, and a specific city in Georgia will have a different answer than maybe another town just 100 miles away in Georgia. A place like Arizona can power a big part of its grid with solar because there's a lot of sun. In New York State, that's not the case. New York State doesn't get a lot of sun, and solar is not very efficient, so they have to rely on things like nuclear and natural gas. Those sorts of differences between geographies are what make the environmental issues so complex. And as we look to the future, we have to keep that in mind. As I've traveled around the country to really conservative communities, I really understand the frustration around the climate change dialogue. The climate change dialogue feels like it's coming for the jobs in many communities. It feels like it's going to raise prices and really harm the economy. It feels like they're going to impose very draconian measures into their day-to-day lives. And as a conservative myself, I've felt that frustration as well. And I've grown up in a more suburban, urban area where I wouldn't be as impacted by those feared decisions. On top of that, a lot of the predictions from the alarmist community on the climate side of things haven't come true. So together, that frustration of policies that appear as if they're going to harm a lot of people's lives and predictions that haven't come true makes a lot of people fearful and skeptical of the topic. But let me tell you, this isn't about fearful policy change. This isn't about a bunch of scientific predictions that won't come true. This is about believing in the protection of our environment, and this is about believing that increasing our CO2 levels, our carbon pollution into the atmosphere, needs to start to be reversed. Point blank. That is it. And while a lot of the predictions haven't come true and a lot of the policy solutions aren't necessarily the most helpful for our economy or our communities, that doesn't mean it has to be that way. There are solutions that boost the economy rather than harm it. There are solutions that create jobs instead of remove them. There are solutions that boost rural areas and help farmers and ranchers and those sorts of communities instead of take away their livelihoods. Those are the paths that we need to be going down. And the predictions and the models and all the different data that is and hasn't been or has been true, let's put that out the window for a second and remember that there's one thing that matters the most in this conversation, and that is the nature that we all enjoy and that we all know will be better off if we have less of an impact on it. We're not going to leave no trace as humans, but let's leave as little trace as we possibly can so that we can protect the place that we love most and, oh, by the way, the place that we call home.